Once again, I'm Lehman Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Less Than Guru, and we are here for Torg Tuesdays. So, what I want to talk about today is a little more of the concept that I have, that I've promoted quite heavily, of making Torg your own. And as well as I want to present options to you that might work locally at your own table. And what I mean by that is, I'm not talking about changing Torg Eternity. I'm not talking about using my freelance, what do I want to say, my freelancer influence, because I help design and write adventures and content for Torg Eternity. I'm not talking about me taking my ideas for my specific home group and trying to push that into Torg Eternity. Um, a lot of times, what I might do is I might say, hey, in my group, this is the way I run things. But I don't want to necessarily take everything that I do and try to force it into this, because this is a global game, a game that needs to appeal to many people and many different tables. And when I'm coming up with rule variants or options, I tend to focus on what I know I like as a game master and what my table group would appeal to them, and balance along that type of lines, not some worldly balance, because there's a lot of things that I can simply just tell my players, hey, I prefer if you not do this, and they're usually like, okay. Sometimes there might be a debate or some back and forth, but normally I explain my reasoning and they're fine with it. But if you look, say, on the Piazza forums, or you look on the Discord, the Torg Eternity rules questions, you can get into some heated arguments with people that just they want an official answer, boom, and are not accepting anything that anybody else says, no matter what. And that's what I, as a game master, kind of take a step back. And also, they might say, well, my player says this, and I think this, and things like that. And they want that, necessarily, they want that official answer. And I'm talking about more of options that aren't official, but can be canon in your own Cosmverse. Because I've many times talked about how every Cosmverse under every game master is canon in the lore here, and the original lore were the original Torg. So basically, even within original Torg and Torg Eternity, there might be either changes of rules, clarifications of rules, or even clarifications of rules that might have had one answer and then they have the opposite answer. And I'm going to present an actual thing like that from original Torg, because as the game progresses, you have, and ages, there's many different variables that affect the game. When it first came out, this was in a box set that came with these two books, this book, and the very first Infiniverse, and the card deck, and if you're lucky, you had the Eternity Shard die. This book came out, and you could separately buy the drama deck that also came with Cosm cards and the Destiny deck, and it was complete. It worked well together. These three books with what else came in the box set worked together. Once you start adding source books to it, the rules change. That's why these are purple, and I think I've pointed it out before. Can't really see it. Back there, third shelf, there are the original ones that are orange. The rules changed as they came out with source books. Rules get updated. People change within the company. The game might have been designed, built by one group of people or a person, author, depending, and then those people leave, or new people come in and take over duties, or they shift where they are at the company, or they leave and they go to a different company. And whoever comes in and starts writing might understand things differently, might have a different view on things. So sometimes even officially, you might get two different responses depending on when and by who responds to that. Lucky, I guess, us in the modern internet age where we do have forums and Discord and designers, talking specifically Deanna Gilbert, who will answer. She will answer the questions and give the official ruling. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to, at your own game, decide that that's how you're going to do it. You can say, oh, that's official, but my world is a little bit different. Or if you get two conflicting answers, like one day she says this and the next day she says this, choose which one fits your group better. And I'll go back to original Torg, and I'm using this here. I've showed this at least once. This is my Infiniverse. Basically, Torg came out with these magazines, the original called the Infiniverse. I did not participate during the time, but when West End Games was having its big blowout, one of the things that they did is they had a PDF, which I am so sad that within the many computers I've had since that time, I've lost that PDF, but it had a PDF of all the different Infiniverses. So I printed them out, and I at least got lucky in here. Now, when I look at this, Torg, the original, was produced in 1990, and the fourth issue, so it's probably it was either late 1990 or early, or somewhere in 91. So early in the game, somebody asked a question. Can a player spend a possibility to reduce damage to his vehicle or mount? And the very simple answer here is yes. So that is page 11 of the fourth, if I look here, campaign guide. So that you know that I'm not just saying something. 4. And we go here, and let's see. Can a player spend a possibility to reduce damage to his vehicle? Yes. Very simple. Yes, you can do it. Now, if we go to the very end, which is actually like the last issue that I have, I'm not sure if there were things that were not put on that PDF, but if I look at this one, and this was before I had any way to print on both sides besides going and flipping the paper. So if I look here, March, April of 1994. Okay, so 3 to 4 years later, they ask, can a Storm Knight spend a possibility to mitigate armor or vehicle's damage? Spend possibility on behalf of the object. No, you can't spend possibilities to heal a vehicle or piece of equipment. Any such damage must be repaired. So that is here. Can a Storm Knight spend possibilities? You can pause it. No, you can't. So, yes, you can. Changed to no, you can't. Now, you can take it as the very last one was no, you can't, but this was done in 1994, and I think there was like one product made for Torg, the original Torg, between 94 and 95, and that was World's End Adventure. I could be wrong. Basically, there wasn't as much internet stuff of knowing exactly when certain things published and got printed. But when I look at all my stuff, I practically see there is a big gap. And 95 is when War's End came out, the last adventure for original Torg. Now, having said that, that's still 1 year, 1994 to 1995. 1995 is when Torg ended. So if anybody was playing this and had read that back in 1991, they were playing officially that they could spend those possibilities to heal their, to soak damage for their vehicle. And they would have been playing that 4 years. And then they get that and they have 1 year where they're not playing it. me as a player and as a game master would be like, we've been doing it this way this long, don't see a problem with it, so sure, we'll just keep doing this. We don't need to be official because it was answered 3 to 4 years previously, and very at the very end of its life, the answer changed. Now, did that person intentionally do that? I don't think so. I think they just didn't know, and they made a ruling to be official and not realize that at the beginning in episode or issue 4, the last issue was says number 40. So they didn't realize that 36 issues previously they had answered the question. That's what I think. Now, was that what was actually happened? I don't know, but that's my guessing. A new person coming in, not knowing that 36 issues previously it had been answered, and they gave an official ruling, official whatever you want to call it, and it contradicted what they did before. Now, as a game master, if you come into this now and you see that, you can make the decision which one fits your game better. You could either look at it also like, well, this one was done later, so it is. That's usually what happens. Like that's why there is these purple ones, because the orange ones the rules changes as source books came out and then they updated the rules. So you could look at it as whatever is newest is more current, or depending on the situation, I honestly think the rule didn't change. I don't think that that rule was updated in any way, shape, or form. I think the person just didn't know that previously it had been opposite of what they wanted, or possibly they might have disagreed with it and now they were in the position to have it align with their own beliefs. And that could happen too. But as a game master, read those, figure out which one works best with you. And that's something that I was doing with the Paraverse, my own Infiniverse product, which is on DriveThruRPG. Once Pan Pacifica gets released and it is finalized, then I will start my revision of the Paraverse to incorporate all the Cosm books that have come out since then, because certain rules I made because there weren't rules in this original form. Weird Science is not in this. You have to go to Nile Empire, and having seen Nile Empire and the rules that I came up with as a fix for Weird Science, gizmos, and gadgets, I kind of like the Torg Eternity ones better. So those rules will probably be eliminated. If you have that PDF, then you can use that. If you like my rules better, I don't. But if you like my rules better, you could use that. Other things have changed since I have been playing. My blast radius rules. They worked for a little while, but I spent 3 years tweaking them until I got them to something that I actually really like. So those will probably be updated. Other rules, which I think were nice in theory, but in practice never came up. I think I might have had one person do it the time that I talked about it and was explaining the differences, and then it never happened again, was the mystical flavors that I had. I might keep those as options if people want to use them, but I won't use them in my own game because nobody ever used them. And I would bring it up and people just didn't feel like doing it. So if they don't feel like doing it, I'm not going to force them to do it. A couple other things that I'm thinking about is skill caps. Are they needed? In original Torg, there were no skill caps, and usually around 8 to 10 people in my group at least tended to do other things. And with it being 5 and one of them allowed to go up to 8 with mastery, I don't see it as a big difference. I might completely get rid of the perk mastery and maybe have it 5 for alpha and then 10, 8 or 10 for beta. And then if you get the gamma, I'll up it 3, maybe, or 5. I'll maybe do something like that. Another thing that I think about is adjusting perks, how you get perks. I want to start with the 2 for free. I really like that. But there's a point where they either get too expensive depending on your concept. And some of my players, I looked before I did this, they were happy with 4 perks. They were beta and they had 4 perks, but then I had other person who had 8 perks at the exact same XP level. So they felt that the perks were more integral to their character. There might be perks that I get rid of entirely. I'm thinking about eliminating the whole cyberware and occult tech perks and making them contradictions to other realms. Instead of having it behind a perk wall, anybody could buy it, but if you're not from cyber papacy, because for the cyberware, I would make it so that it is a world law based on that is both technology and spirit. And for the Tharcold, I would make it world law, not just tech, but world law of pain. So something like that, or maybe the cyberware would be maybe the one true God, the world law plus the tech. So you have to have both of those to not be a contradiction, but allow people to spend money or resources to acquire that. Um, I don't necessarily enjoy in my home game saying it's a perk. I see perks as things that are integral to a character's persona, them being not just a I got my arm replaced or my monster hunter I got this type thing. So I might work along that. It would be more of a going back to original Torg, I guess you could say. When I did the Paraverse, I wanted to present more of an original Torg feel, if not exactly original Torg, but original Torg feel using these rules. Now that I've done these rules for my home game for 3 years, I kind of, in some ways, want to go back to original Torg for certain things. I might have Backlash be a little bit different for magic, psionics, and miracles. I like that they were different, but I do like the ease on having them all work the same in Torg Eternity. So I would probably have them all work the same, but maybe fail differently. And not necessarily the flavors that I tried to present in the Paraverse, but have it just be magic fails this way, miracles fail this way, and psychic stuff fails that way, so that there's a little bit of difference between the three, not in the accomplishments of them, but in the failures of them. And certain things like that I might tweak. I'll probably tweak super skill and super attribute. Um, like I said, weird science, spells, and additional spell psychic powers and miracles. I would probably do something a little bit different. So there's all these thoughts kind of percolating in the back of my mind on presenting those as options. And again, I don't want to change Torg. I'm not in my official capacity as a freelance author trying to push any of these ideas, but they are things that I want for my home group and want to be able to present to other game masters out there for their home group a different way of thinking about Torg and using Torg rules in a slightly different manner that might fit their table really well. So that's something that I'm presenting to you now. As things start solidifying, I'll probably talk about those, because I'm always for different options and different ways of thinking about stuff. Um, so basically, that's basically what I wanted to say, is that in original Torg, yes, they change rules. And in Torg Eternity, sometimes you'll see errata where things get changed as new perks and abilities and such are added. You kind of see some things that were very solid by themselves. When they interact, things get all fluid and weird, so you have to come up with rules because of that. And maybe you don't like those rules that were made because of that wonkiness. Then you just say no, this doesn't work in my own home game. So it does affect things differently for like organized play, which I'm part of, but that is something that when you go into an organized group, you realize that they have their rules that they kind of set in, and as a player, it's not as free as with the as a home group. Whereas a game master, if I have a player, we can discuss things and maybe change things to fit that specific person, even if it is that specific character at the specific time. And in the future, I'll never allow this again, which I have done before. as an example, when Nile Empire was in development, one of the things that they even presented, and it was in the preview, and I was sure was going to be in the book. I wasn't an author at the time, but I was a playtester. Was a perk that let you get key powers as a Nile martial artist. Key powers will be changed to breath powers or breath perks instead of key perks, but that was one of the things that they were presenting. And in original Torg, that was a thing where Core Earth, Nile Empire, and Nippon Tech, the Pan Pacifica predecessor, those were martial arts were allowed for those three realms. So there were Nile Empire martial artists, and I really thought that that was going to be a thing. And they had the whole preview, and it was up, and I was like, "This is a done deal." And I allowed a player to play that type of character, to play a Nile Empire martial artist. And then when the book came out, that was cut from it. I don't remember if it was even in the preview, but by the official release, the final product release, it no longer was a thing. And basically, it was because we don't want to take this cool thing away from Pan Pacifica and just kind of let this other cosm have it too. So what did I do? I said, okay, for your character, this character, I'm not going to take it away. I'm not going to make you remake your character. We're going to go with this. But if this character, if whatever reason you stop playing this character, character dies, character leaves, the whatever, this is the one and done. And that's what I would recommend for game masters. If you and a player are talking about things and you really like a character concept, but you don't want it fully available, make it a one and done. See how it works. Maybe at the end you might make it again or allow it again, but at least you've seen it, and then that also makes it so that the player isn't just gonna randomly throw down a martyr card, because then they can make that exact same character junior and align their attributes and XP spending to be much more efficient. Now that really can't be done in organized play. To organized play, if you die, you start back at zero, which is something that I've also thought about in the Paraverse, having an original Torg. When I played original Torg, game mastered it, all my different players had different possibility, I mean, it was XP back then, but different possibility amounts that they had spent in upping their character, and I never found that big of a problem. Torg was one of the very few systems, like maybe two systems, one that I designed myself, where a beginning character could feel useful as an advanced character. I understand why they did that with Torganized, or Torg Eternity is making everybody have the same XP. I see the reason for it. I agree with a lot of it, but other aspects I don't necessarily fully agree. So I agree partly with it, and that's something that I might add to the Paraverse, where if your character doesn't show up, maybe they get a XP, a point or two or three, or some variance of that for while you were doing this, they were doing something, but it wasn't as important, so they don't get everything. And that way, if somebody's brought in after they died or their character died, what do I want to say? Don't like the idea of just using martyr cards to try new ideas. If you're going to do that, talk with me as a game master. You don't need to keep killing your character off. Some people tend to do that. In organized play, it's not as prevalent because you start at the beginning. So there is a difference between starting at the beginning and willy-nilly getting rid of your character, and starting as equal, just get rid of your character, because there is no downside to getting rid of your character. So having said that, I just want to wrap this up saying make Torg your own. There's many different options to do. There's 2 editions that are pretty compatible. They're not perfectly compatible, but they're good enough that you can easily, on the fly, in my opinion, use an adventure from one with the other. If you like the original system, use that, but use that top layer of Torg Eternity products to add a new twist to your games, or vice versa. Use your original Torg products to give a new twist to your Torg Eternity. And hopefully, when Pan Pacifica gets finalized, I will start working on the Paraverse, and then you will have even more options that you can bring to your own table. So that will be it for today. Once again, I am Lee McCracken Jr., aka Zormal Chan, Less Than Guru, and until next time, we'll catch you.